First met him in Quincy, Illinois, and he joins us now via Skype, looking still fabulous as always. I do like the hat, but Roger, we're all aware that we've spoken with you before. We've talked about the case. Amy Berman Jackson, who if anybody should be removed from a position, it should be Amy Berman Jackson. But the rejection to delay your sentencing during the middle of a pandemic, this is this is crazy. First off, thanks for joining me. How are you feeling? How are you doing? And especially leading up to this.
Well, I actually feel relatively good because I have put my full faith in Jesus Christ. And I know that no matter what transpires at the end of the day, he walks with me. I am protected by God, like those of us who are Christians and have gotten right with the Lord. I'm not proselytizing here today. I'm just telling you what's keeping together my sanity and my strength in this fight for freedom. I mean, it's really quite extraordinary. It is the official policy of the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Bureau of Prisons to move those convicted of nonviolent crimes from incarceration to home confinement. I'm thinking of Michael Avenatti, the Democratic super lawyer, Michael Cohen, convicted of multiple financial crimes, who became an anti-Trump witness against the president, Rick Gates, the weasel, who is Paul Manafort's former partner, became a government witness, lied at my trial. They have all been moved to home confinement, but it is vitally important that Judge Amy Berman Jackson send me to a prison very far from my home in rural Georgia, where the probability of my ultimately dying of coronavirus at age 67 and with some history of asthma is very likely. So this is tantamount to the death penalty. They want to give me capital punishment for the conviction of a bunch of fabricated crimes of lying to Congress.
They want to give you the death penalty because you simply advised Donald Trump.
Well, and also because I refused to buckle. I mean, it really became clear in July 26th, actually, of 2019, days before the Mueller investigation was released, that they would be willing to make a deal with me. They would be willing to recommend that I serve no jail time if I would simply remember a series of phone conversations between candidate Trump and myself in 2016. They said to my lawyers, it's time for your client to confess. It's time for him to come forward and tell the truth. And if he were willing to do that, we'd make a deal. And I said, well, they want me to lie. I'm not going to lie. So end of story. They actually threatened me with a superseding indictment that they would add additional charges, to quote the prosecutor exactly, to make sure that your client dies in jail. And I still refused. And Dana, I have no regrets whatsoever, none. I refused to be part of their illegal coup to take down the president. It was clear to me at that point that they knew that the Mueller report would produce nothing. They wanted me to be the ham in their ham sandwich, and I refused.
And good for you, because it's why compromise on the truth? And that's exactly what they wanted. They were trying to fabricate something. They had nothing. They had nothing this entire time. They were trying to go at you over perfectly legal emails. You did nothing wrong. And I hope that I hope there's going to be a pardon. And I wanted to ask you about that. I know that the president had retweeted a piece from Carlson that was discussing perhaps pardoning you. I think that he should issue you a pardon. What are your thoughts? I know he's not calling you up and saying, Roger, this is how it's going to go. But do you anticipate something like that happening?
Well, anticipate would be too strong. Look, I'm praying for it. Every one of the president's tweets since the day I was arrested has been completely and totally supportive. He was right about the outrageousness of 29 FBI agents storming my home in the pre-dawn hours of January 25th, 2019, arresting me, putting me in handcuffs, but more precisely, dragging my wife out in the middle of the street in her night clothing and bare feet so the CNN cameras could
Yeah.
get a good view of her.
Because that's how
This
that
is
normally goes. When they go and they go after dangerous people like Roger Stone, they bring an entire CNN crew with them in tow.
it's really extraordinary. We know for an absolute fact that CNN's camera crew showed up 14 minutes before the FBI, making it the shortest stakeout in American journalistic history. And we know because one of the CNN producers, on-air talent, emailed my lawyer a copy of a draft of my indictment. It had no court markings, no pacer markings, no timestamp, but it did have the initials of the criminal who wrote it. Andrew Weissman left his initials in the meta tags. Just the fact that CNN possessed a sealed document prior to it being unsealed at 9:30 that morning, this was at 7 a.m., proves that they had advance notice of my arrest in violation of the law, because when they executed the warrant for my arrest, they also executed a search warrant for the premises. And the leaking of the plans to deliver a search warrant is specifically a felony.
Yeah, none of this was followed by the book. None of this was by the book at all, whether it had to go with the way that Amy Berman Jackson handled this case, the way that, and then, of course, I would even, the sentencing, 40 months for a fabricated charge. And for anybody who hasn't been following Roger, and I'm going to ask you to speak to this, what really concerns me about some of the apathy that I see from people is that this can be done to anybody. We saw the attempt to undermine a free and fair election with the president of the United States. We have seen this with these fabricated charges against yourself. This can happen to anyone if they're apathetic and they allow politics to infest the criminal justice system and law and order to the extent that it has. And now innocent people can be targeted and sent to jail for 40 months during a pandemic, literally for nothing else but having the wrong politics. And that's what ultimately this is.
Well, and even before I should be incarcerated, let's be clear. I completely lost my voice. I was prohibited from defending myself in public. Judge Jackson has this bizarre belief that she has the right to suspend your free speech rights if you're a criminal defendant. Nowhere in law, nowhere in the Constitution is that said. If I could ever get an honest court to appeal it to, I would win. I appealed it to the D.C. Appeals Court. They purposely sat on it for 5 months while I was sustaining damage, while CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times, and most precisely the Washington Post, the dominant newspaper where the jury pool in my case would be chosen, basically conducted a tsunami of fake news and lies about me. But none of that matters. It's very dangerous. Someone might read Roger Stone's Instagram feed and the jury would be tainted. Please give me a break.
Yeah.
The conduct of Judge Jackson will be explored extensively on appeal. The problem is I have to live long enough to get to appeal. That is why Judge Jackson on Friday ignored all of the substance of our motions about the dangers of coronavirus in this period and sending me to a correctional facility where it's a question mark, where the potential for infection is very real, because they want me dead. If I get to appeal, Judge Jackson's done as a judge in this country. She is done as a member of the bar. The Mueller prosecutors, the 4 corrupt prosecutors, who, folks, are not non-political career line prosecutors. They're Hillary Clinton and Obama operatives, every single one of them. They worked in jobs prior to being prosecutors for either Clinton or Obama. That's yet another fake news media fraud. They cannot afford for me to get to appeal because too much truth will be revealed. Judge Jackson's multiple unconstitutional pretrial motions will be up for grabs. Judge Jackson's cover-up for a corrupt juror will be up for grabs. She has some bizarre, even demented, perhaps deranged view that you and I, Dana, we have no right to question the actions
because it's a revolution.
of a judge.
It's a revolution within the system.
Criticism doesn't work that way in America.
That's exactly right. I keep saying this over and over again with everything that we've been seeing. It's not a protest, it's a revolution. This is a revolution within the system. These are political operatives who are in very advantageous positions, who are trying to clear out any kind of political dissent. So what happens next? I know you're talking about appeal. What happens for what needs to happen for that to take place? And
Well, I mean, there are a couple possibilities. Obviously, there are many flaws in the judge's ruling. I actually don't know whoever wrote this is actually a lawyer. It's that bad. But my chances of winning on appeal in the D.C. circuit, which is overloaded with Obama appointees, you have to recognize most of these judges have no regard for the law or the Constitution. They just make it up as they go. Let's take, for example, Judge Emmett Sullivan. Judge Sullivan has no authority to appoint a special counsel in the Flynn case. Judge Sullivan has no legal authority to decide whether General Flynn should now be prosecuted for perjury because he folded under the enormous personal pressure and the threats against his family to plead guilty to things he hadn't done. Judge Sullivan's actions are unconstitutional. They are grounds for his removal from the court. If the House Republicans do not move on Amy Berman Jackson and on Judge Emmett Sullivan, if they win a majority, then there's something wrong with America. On the other hand, I honestly believe if we lose the next election, we will have lost America's last presidential election. There won't be another one. I really think the only thing that stands between this country hurtling over the cliff to globalism, the only thing that stands between us and the success of the violent socialist revolution in our streets is President Donald Trump. And if he is not reelected, you can kiss the America that we love goodbye.
And I hope with that, he pardons you as well. And I hope that people out there watching, let him know on Twitter, pardon Roger Stone, because it's deserved. And it's not about politics. And if it is about politics for people, that's a shame. I guess they don't deserve or appreciate the freedom in which we enjoy here in the United States. This is about using the system, using the justice system to target people politically, which is anti-American. Roger, how can people help? Beyond that?
Well, what you say is absolutely right. First of all, go on Twitter, tag the President of the United States, and let him know you support an act of clemency in the name of humanitarianism and mercy. I don't know who supports my 73-year-old wife who is deaf and has rheumatoid arthritis in the event that I am incarcerated. That's my number one worry. I worry about that more than I worry about my own health and safety if I have to go into a prison. But secondarily, I worry about not being on the battlefield this November. People can help me by signing the petition at freerogerstone.com. Sign the petition to the president, urging him to an act of clemency towards Roger Stone. If you want to help us in our epic and expensive legal battle, go to stonedefensefund.com. God bless you, Dana. I appreciate your support. And I really appreciate being here.
Of course, Roger. I've known you for a long time. I know you're a good dude. I know that you make people mad because you won't back down. And I hope that, I hope that you're pardoned. I hope that you get the clemency from the president. We'll talk soon. Good to see you again, Roger.
Thank you, Dana.
Take care.